Keep my fingers crossed. All right. We'll appreciate everyone taking your time today to join us. We're really excited to talk to you about GAM course rating and what it entails, and answer some questions that you have. So that's really the whole point of this, is to answer questions. So don't feel like you're interrupting. If you ask questions, or if you want to ask questions in the chat, you can do that as well. So with me from the GAM is Theodore. And Theodore, if you want to just introduce yourself really quick, and you can let them know about the chat.
Yeah, we love questions. The more participation we get, the more fun and exciting it makes us. But my name's Theodore. I started with the GAM back in October. I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I went to Grand Valley State, and I was a boatwright intern here 2 summers ago. And then when I got my degree from Grand Valley, Kyle and the office hired me on. So I'm the golf services coordinator. I've had a little bit of experience with course rating, but I'm excited to be here and continue to get as many people on board and have some fun.
Great, thanks. So yeah, so if you do have questions, you can obviously ask them throughout, talk, or you can also send them in via chat, whatever you feel most comfortable with. In terms of today, we would ask that, if you're hopefully, maybe you've used Zoom before. With the last year we've had, chances are pretty high that you have, but if you haven't, there is a mute button in the bottom left when you hover over the screen. And if you're not talking, if you could mute yourself, or just know that if we hear any dogs barking or things happen in the background, we will mute you. So, and then likewise, if you want to show your video, you can do that as well by hovering over in the bottom left, but it's not required. So completely up to you. But like Theodore said, we're really excited to go over some things and learn some things today. If you do have any questions, feel free to let us know, but we're going to kind of go ahead and get started here. So a couple things that we're going to go over. We went through the introductions. I didn't really introduce myself. I should probably do that. But my name is Kyle Wolf. I'm the course rating director here at the GAM, and I've been with the GAM since 2016. So it'll almost be year 6. We're starting year 6 soon, but it's I've been involved in course rating for the last couple of years now, and it's definitely a fun thing that we get to do, a fun service that we get to provide our golfers and golf courses, and something that is a little bit intellectually challenging. Not necessarily. It's not rocket science, but it does make you think, and that's something, for me at least, that I enjoy about it. That it keeps me on top of things, and I'm always looking and excited to learn new things. So we'll talk about that a little bit today, and we won't get into a ton of the details in terms of the process. We'll save those for further trainings and further discussions, but we want to give you an overview, kind of how things work, what the sheets look like, what the book looks like, things like that, so you get a better idea of what we do. So so some of you that have been through some of our sessions, unfortunately, because I want to make sure that this works. This is normally a video, and we'll probably show it later, because I think we'll be able to get to it later. But if you haven't seen the video, a lot of you probably have. We send it out in our kind of welcome to new raters. It's also on our Course Rater volunteer website. But it's a great video that gives an overview of exactly what we do. And actually, let me see, I might just be able to pull it up here. So.
No 2 golf courses play the same. A score of 87 on a difficult course might be a better performance than a score of 85 on an easy one. It's not just courses that differ. Each player will perform differently, even on the same course. The scratch player, a golfer with a 0 handicap index, will have a different experience from the bogey player, a golfer with a handicap index of around 20 to 24. Playing a round of golf on the same course at the same time in normal conditions, the bogey player will find more challenges with distance, accuracy, and dealing with obstacles. Course ratings and slope ratings allow the handicap system to reflect this, as part of the conversion of a player's handicap index into a playing handicap, so that golfers of differing abilities can have a fair and enjoyable game. Course ratings reflect the playing difficulty under normal conditions for the scratch player. Slope ratings represent the difference in playing difficulty for all players compared to the scratch player. Being a fundamental part of the handicap system, course ratings are carried out methodically by qualified teams, trained by authorized associations. Ratings are based on normal course and weather conditions, with each hole being evaluated for effective playing length and obstacles. The effective length includes factors such as elevation, roll, wind, and altitude. Obstacles include factors such as trees, fairway width, penalty areas, recoverability from rough, and green size. All these factors are assessed separately for both the scratch and bogey player. Once the evaluation process has been completed, the course rating and slope rating is calculated for each set of tees. When it comes to playing a round of golf, course ratings and slope ratings should normally be available on a lookup chart or through an app, which can be used to determine your handicap and how many strokes you'll receive. In bringing together a course rating system that is already in use in many parts of the world, with a consistent method of calculating handicaps, the World Handicap System provides a handicap index which is truly portable, whoever you are, whatever your ability, and wherever you are playing in the world, enabling you to match your skills against other players of differing abilities and making the game even more enjoyable.
Yeah, so I always like starting off that video and kind of showing that, because it really kind of gives a great overview of exactly what we do. And I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen that multiple times. But it's always a good reminder and something that we always like to share with our new raters. So like the video said, I mean, the main reason that we do course rating, we provide course rating services to our golf courses, is so that golfers can use the World Handicap System or the USGA Handicap Index to have fair and equal play. Whether that's you and me going out and playing a friendly match, whether it's the club championship, whether it's the member guest where you're playing for more money than the USGA wants to admit is going on. That is the reason that we do it. And again, that kind of knowing a little bit about that and understanding why we do it is important, because it is something that we enjoy doing, but it is something that we take very seriously, because it is important to thousands of golfers that live here in the state, but also for people that travel here and play as well. So when golfers from other parts of the country come to our great resort courses in Michigan, they engage with the World Handicap System and the USGA Handicap Index when they're playing. So we want to make sure we do a good job, and that's kind of why we're here, is just to kind of go over that, and then we also provide some training to help you get to a point where you can be a great course rater for us. The other part of the process that we do now is help courses come up with what the USGA calls a stroke index allocation, or what most people know as the handicap holes. So that's part of our process as well. So another reason to make sure that what we're doing is done well and we follow the rules that are set forth by the course rating system. So courses in the US and across the world need to be rated every 10 years. So we have a set of courses that we will do automatically every 10 years, but then we also do courses that maybe get special things, special projects done, or are renovating. And we also do new courses as well. So for those of you that are familiar with the old Grand Haven Golf Club that got transformed into American Dunes last year, that was one that we did in the fall last year, so they could have everything ready to go when they open to the public this spring. And for new courses, we actually do them on a quicker frequency, every 5 years at least, because a lot of times when new courses get things done, after a year or two of play, they'll gather feedback from golfers and decide to put tees in different locations, maybe move bunkers, get rid of bunkers, and changes are often made in that initial time frame of being open. Whereas typically a 10-year golf course, I'm not saying there's no changes, but usually the changes we pick up in a 10-year cycle. So with Michigan, a little trivia for you, for those of you, Michigan has the third most golf courses in the country. I think it's like 915 18-hole equivalents. I think I want to say Florida and Texas are the only others that have more. So we have lots of opportunities to get out there and get involved, and all across the state, down from the border all the way up to the Upper Peninsula. When we do rate, we rate through in April through October, so the same time as our score posting season here in Michigan. And but obviously we won't be up in the UP in April, because there's a lot of times there's still going to be snow on the ground up there, and so we kind of do that seasonally, or we open up regions seasonally by weather patterns for that particular year. And a lot of questions I get to from some of the newer folks is, what days do you do it? The day of the week, we do only do ratings Monday through Friday, but the day we really leave up to the golf course to tell us when is the best time and most convenient time for them. The only exception to that is that we try to avoid doing our ratings on courses when they're closed. So for private country clubs, we typically don't do Mondays unless they can guarantee that the kitchen's going to be open, so we can get you your lunch that we promise you. So it's really varied in terms of the days of the week that we do it, but it is all Monday through Friday, and we typically start at 8 or 8:30 in the morning. When we're out to the course, we, as a GAM policy, will rate all the tees for men, so any tee that they have. And then we'll also do any tee up to 6,000 yards for ladies. And the reason we do that is that, and the reason we pick 6,000 yards as a stopping point is because the system allows us to create a rating for a tee over 6,000 yards using the yardage and information from the closest set of tees. So basically our goal is that we want to be able to have any golfer that comes to play a golf course that's rated here in Michigan to be able to post their score no matter what tee they play, no matter what gender they are. So that's really important to us. We make sure that gets done. And we don't really give the course the option to pick what tees they want rated. It's just, that's the way we do it. And more and more associations are going to that route. And the main reason that we started to go down that direction was this was before I started. So in like the pre-2018, we would get all these requests to go rate the red tee or the front tee for senior men, because shocking, there's a lot of senior golfers that are getting older but still like to play golf. And so they wanted to play up, but there was no rating for those tees. So we had to send out teams to do one tee, and it was a pain in the butt to have to do that. All right, and then the other, I'm getting a little off topic here. The other, the other thing that we also do for courses is we provide combo or hybrid tees if they want them. So you'll see these on scorecards of courses that you play potentially, where they have a blue and a white, for example, and maybe one is 6,500 and one is 6,000. but the golfer there really wants to play around 6,200. And so we can put together a combo tee that they can use that golfers can play and can post to. And so that's been a lot more common lately as well. So our expectations for you as a course rater is, first and foremost, to have fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be social, with enjoying it with other people. You'll meet a lot of great people as part of this, and you'll get to see a lot of different golf courses. And we also we also play as well. That's part of the process, which we'll talk about, and that's I think that's the funnest part. But not maybe everyone doesn't share that view, but I like getting a chance to get out there and play the course at the end as well. We do expect you to study and learn. So we'll talk about this a little bit later, but when we do training, obviously we want to train you when you're out there and do some quote unquote on the job training, but we also want you to do some studying ahead of time and to understand some basic things before you get out there, so that your training experience can be better, and then ultimately you can get going on your own sooner rather than later. We do ask all of our volunteers to be GAM members, whether they volunteer with our course rating program or with our tournament volunteers. And the reason for that is that we believe in the product that we provide, and especially as a course rater, the main reason we do it is so golfers can post their scores, and that's the main reason that people are a member of the Golf Association of Michigan. We'd ask that you post your scores when you play. Just helps us create value to the golf courses to get this done, and also allows you hopefully to have a more enjoyable time, keep track of your game, be able to play on an equal basis with people of different skill sets. We'd also appreciate if you would be able to provide us any feedback about the process, or just things that you see out there. With the 600 courses that we have rated across the state currently, there's only 10 GAM staff members. So for us to be able to get out and be at all 600 golf courses every year is really difficult. But between all of our volunteers and the people that are loyal to us, we do like to hear if things are different. Maybe the tee colors have changed and the golf course didn't tell us. We want to make sure we get that right. Maybe they added a brand new tee. This past November, luckily the weather was good enough, and I was able to go out and play with one of our coworkers at a golf course. And we get there, and there's a whole nother tee out there that's not even in our system. So we want to get those situations taken care of. We also have a quote unquote uniform. It's really just a polo with a GAM logo, and then there's a hat. We would ask you to at least get the polo, so you have your shirt with a GAM logo on it, and also just helps you fit in with the rest of the team and look like the part of the team. And we'll talk more about clothing and where that is a little bit at the end here. All right, any questions before I move on to the next one?
Yeah, I just have one.
Yeah.
Kyle, I'm a GIN member, and I'm happy to become a GAM member as well. I have been in the past. It's just irritating to have to join both.
Yeah, so GIN is just our technology provider. So if you're a GIN member, you're probably a GAM member. So we just use the GIN system, which is the USGA technology. Right. So chances are, and I'm pretty sure you're already a member, but we'll double check.
Yeah, what I did was I went online just prior to this meeting, and it didn't recognize any of my stats, any of my my email or any of that stuff. So I'll have to go and sort that out. It's not a big deal. I just was curious.
Yep, sure. No, we'll definitely look into that for you. All right. So the other thing that we do as part of the process, and I don't, hopefully you guys can see this on my camera, but there's a book that we use, but when we go out there and we do all of our work. So this course rating system guide that you'll see, and it's a spiral book that has a whole bunch of different pages in there. And it's important to have as part of the process. And so it is another item that's required. If you don't have one already, I know a lot of people on this call have one, or have either purchased one before or have already contacted us to get one. But if you don't have one, we'll get one. Yep, exactly. That's it. And we will get it out to you. It's $23. That includes the shipping. In the USGA, they print these new books every 4 years. So the current version is good through the 2023 season. So it's really, if you break it down, right, if you got it right now, it's less than $6 a year. And like I said before, you get to play as part of the process. And you can see there's some payment options there. And I guess I'll just say it in general too. I know that we get the question a lot. Well, I'm volunteering my time. Why do I have to pay for a shirt? Why do I have to pay for a book? You know, I totally get that. One of the things is that if you try to go and volunteer for a lot of things in the golf industry, whether it's the PGA Tour, the LPGA Tour, the Ally Challenge at Warwick Hills, you know, you pay to get the same kind of stuff. And so that's the model that our industry uses. However, with that being said, I think we do have some pretty great perks in terms of being able to play. Some of the courses that you'll get to play, you literally cannot get on because you have to be a member to play there. Or if you do get a chance to play, the green fee is expensive. And in our case, the green fee is waived, and we'll get you lunch as well. So understand if this prevents certain people from wanting to get involved, but that's just the model that the golf industry, the USGA, who's our biggest partner, uses, and so that's the main reason that we do it. So in terms of training, we're doing a lot more winter training this year, and some of that is just because people are a lot more familiar now with Zoom and things like that, because of the pandemic. It's kind of a good outcome of a bad scenario. But so we do winter trainings every Thursday at 10 a.m. And I know some of you have been on those that we've done so far. We also record them and post them if you can't make them, so you can look at them later. We'll also do any on-demand training that we can. So whether that means that you want to jump on a call with myself or one of our captains, and I guess I should probably go over that too. So before we go any further, so how we have our system set up is we have basically a group of right now around 100 to 125 volunteers across the state. We have about 8 captains that lead certain areas of the state. And so they kind of take up the courses in their area, and then the raters can pick and choose which events that they want to do. However, it's not always necessarily, first come, first serve. We give preference to raters that are local to the course that's being done. And then there are some courses where we'll have like a priority list based on the amount of time you've been doing it or the level of proficiency that you're at in your journey. So you'll see, but it really kind of availability is a lot of it just depends on how many courses are in certain areas. Like I was telling people earlier, when we did our intro for this season, we're doing Oakland Hills South course this year after they're getting redone. No one on this call is probably going to be able to do that course. Mm-hmm. But if you live or are willing to travel in the Jackson area, there's like 4 courses in Jackson. I guarantee you that you'll have an opportunity to work there. And then there's tons of other opportunities to get out and get some experience. So I guess just don't go in thinking that you're going to do Oakland Hills this year, maybe in 10 years or maybe in 6 years when the other course is. But I think that's, most people are understanding of that. So when we do training, we, like I said earlier, we do on the job training, but we do ask that you kind of come in prepared and don't come in blind. And the reason that we say that is for both parties. It's better for you so that you have a better experience and you can pick up more your first couple times you're out there. And then it's also better for us so that we can move you along and get you to do your own tee as soon as possible. And for us to be able to spend our time not necessarily training people all year long and not having our best people, because typically our best people, our best raters are also our best trainers. Shocker how that works. But we want to make sure that they're rating golf courses as well as training people, and having someone that comes in brand new makes that really, really challenging. And then we'll also do new rater training sessions like this. We'll probably do another one maybe on the course if we can. A lot of it is just dependent on weather and COVID as well. But those are things that we'll do as well. And so if there's ever anything we can do to help you, let us know. We can set up some time to talk or set you up with a captain to talk or go over things. We'd be happy to do that. And then we'll also show you there's a resource page on our website that has a lot of good materials. And the USGA is also working on some training resources that we hope to have available sometime before we start this year. I always like to say I keep my fingers crossed with anything that USGA promises us. So hopefully they'll have something.
Familiar with the phenomenon.
Hey, Kyle, going back to the course training book. So your Venmo account is kwolf@gam.org?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and then let's see here. What's next? Some items to bring. So depending on the time of year that we're doing it, obviously make sure you bring your appropriate gear. If it's going to rain that day, you'll probably want to bring a rain jacket. And if it's in April, you probably want to bring a hat and gloves. But hopefully it's pretty low key in terms. I mean, just like you would like if you were going to the golf course to play. You guys know what that entails. Like we talked about the shirt. We do have one part of the process is measuring certain distances. So like the most common example would be if you're measuring the width of the fairway, and we do require a rangefinder for that. One nice thing that we're currently working on, I can't say with a 100% certainty, but with 98.9, close to 99% certainty, is that we're working on a deal with Bushnell to be able to provide discounted rangefinders and GPS devices to those of you that are interested. So we'll hopefully have some more information out on that in the next couple weeks. But if you don't have a rangefinder already, I would suggest holding off on getting one because we'll be able to get you one at a discount to what you can get at online or Carl's or any other golf retailer. And then you'll bring that guide as well. We do ask that on the form that you'll fill out, which will show you in a little bit, that you use pencil. So a lot of times a golf pencil is good. As a lot of our captains like to say, our team captains, course rating captains, make sure your pencil has an eraser, especially when you're new. I know when I first started, I use that eraser quite a bit. So make sure you have that eraser. And then most importantly, bring your golf clubs as well. Like I said, you'll get a chance to play in the afternoon. There are unique scenarios where we may not be able to play that day. But if that's the case, we will arrange another time with the golf course for you all to come out. And usually those are more geared at like a private club setting. So like, for example, when we do the Oakland Hills, the new renovation, where our raters won't go out and play before their members get to play. And so we make sure that we don't do that. In fairness to the golf course and their members. But we will have a chance to play at a later time for those that do that course. And I say it happens maybe once or twice a year when we run into that.
I want to jump in before you get to Form 1 here.
Yeah.
We have two quick things to address. How can they order, how will they eventually be able to order their apparel or GAM gear, like shirts and stuff like that?
Yeah, so we'll go over that at the very end. It's on the GAM volunteer website is where you'll order that.
Okay, and then maybe you'll get to this with the Form 1 as well, which you probably will, but someone is curious about if speed of greens is used in calculating course ratings. So I know you'll probably address that as well, but.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, we definitely do. That's one of the things that we look at as part of the rating process, and that's that it will actually be something that our measuring team gathers. So when we go out, that's kind of a good segment to our discussion on Form 1 here. So when we go out, here's a sample of what one looks like. Let me zoom in here a little bit. So here's an example of what one looks like. And when we go out and do our rating, we typically do this in two stages. So we have our first kind of advanced crew is our measuring team, and they'll go out and basically gather all the information to get this sheet populated like it is. So in a lot of cases, and I'm not sure why this one, oh, here it is. So in a lot of cases, unfortunately not in this one, I think it was because we did the measuring and the rating the same day, but up here where it says the stimp reading, that is the green speed that's measured by the measuring team. And we also take care of the rough height and then all the yardages, the green widths and depths that you see. Those are all measured ahead of time. And all that goes into the rating process. But this is kind of an example of a sheet that you'll get when you arrive to the golf course when you're going to rate.
May I ask, you have these lengths on these courses. Tee boxes sometimes tend to be, deep. Where in the tee box do you measure it from? And then where on the green? For instance, here on this third hole, is that 140 to the middle of the green?
Correct. Yep. So that's a good question. So when we're measuring to the green, our measurements are always to the middle of the green. And so typically how we do that is we measure the front and the back, and then we take the average. Or we measure to the front, and then we have the depth of the green, and we take half that and add it to the measurement to the front of the green.
And then where on the tee box is it measured from?
So on the tee box, there is probably a better illustration of that on our volunteer page, but just roughly, if you use an example of if there's one tee pad that's 10 yards and the blue tee is on that tee, we measure from the middle of that tee. If there's two tees on the tee pad and it's 20 yards long, then we basically cut it in half and then take the midpoint or the half point for each of the tees. Does that make sense there?
Thank you.
Okay. So then on our Form 1, this sheet here, this is what we'll get. And the other thing you'll see too is that typically when it's given to you, it'll have your name on it. Or in the case of it, when you first get started, we're not going to put you out there by yourself. We'll put you out there with an experienced person who will help you and be able to answer questions with you. So it might be their name and your name, but eventually your name will be on here. And then you'll see that there's a couple things here. The tee that's listed here. So you'll be assigned to a tee, and then you'll also be assigned a gender as well. So we might have 8 people that go out and do the rating. But when we do, there'll be 8 people that will be doing different tees. Whether that's, someone could be doing the blue tee for men, another person could be doing the blue tee for ladies, because you'll see here in a second that we evaluate it differently for men and women. But that's always important to note too when you get out there, is that what tee you're doing, and then also what gender you're doing. So when we have this sheet, again, it's important to use pencil, because you're going to do some erasing, that's for sure. And then on this sheet here, there are a couple categories that are bolded, that are a little difficult to see, but basically where this one here, topography, fairway, green target, etc., that row is where you're going to put the end result, right? And in terms of our, when we're filling out this form, that we really want to make sure that we're getting the right number in there. And I'll say this, for certain, is that, no matter how much you know about the course rating system, if you don't get the right number in the sheet at the end of the day, it's not good. So you could learn everything there is about course rating, but if you can't get the right number in there, that it's going to be an issue. But luckily, it's not super complicated to get that number. It just takes a little bit of focus, and once you do it a couple of times, you'll understand exactly where those numbers come from. So when we do ask you to write clearly, make sure that your twos can be distinguished from threes. That's important. And then the other thing too is that the male or female makes a difference. So when we're doing this, and what you'll see throughout the book, is you'll learn is that the numbers in some cases are different for men and women. And the yardages that the system expects those golfers to hit are different, and will definitely make a difference in the outcome. So making sure that you know which one you're doing is important. And we don't necessarily assign people, their gender to the gender that they're doing. It's more of just, we try to do that, but in some cases it's just not possible. So you could be a female assigned to a men's tee, or you could be a male assigned to a female tee. So you have to learn how to do both, or know how to navigate both. But it's not super complicated, I promise. So on this form here, we've got our scratch player is on the left and our bogey player. So we talked about at the beginning, we're evaluating the golf course for both the scratch player and the bogey player. So within each hole here, we have two columns. Our left column is going to be our scratch golfer, and then our right column is going to be our bogey golfer. So when we're filling out, you'll see when we get to the tables in a second that the values for scratch and bogey are going to be different based on our tables. And so we want to make sure that the scratch golfer gets in the left column and the bogey golfer gets in the right. All right, so let's see this, make sure this. Okay, so there was a question about the GAM tee markers that are out there. I think that's in terms of measuring the course. So yes and no, we do that. It really just depends on how many of them there are on the golf course, and if things have changed. So really what we're trying to do when we're measuring the golf course and getting to these numbers is we want to know, and we want these numbers to reflect where golf is being played on average. So when people go to post their scores, the yardage in there is indicative of what they're truly playing from. So the golf course might have a GAM tee marker out there, but if the tee that it's supposed to represent is always 20 yards ahead of that, we're not going to use that GAM marker as a measuring point. So again, we want to make sure that we're representing on average where play is, understanding that play is oftentimes in front of or behind the average point, just to save turf and make sure that certain areas don't get beat up. So another question came in about 10 numbers compared to 10 years ago. So we do typically look at that to see if we have any questions or we need to verify certain things. But in some cases, 10 years ago is irrelevant because T's have been added or things have substantially changed. But we do use it to help us if we have any questions or to be able to verify some of the measurements that we've made. Yep. So, okay, so then the other question that came in is that with various, so basically when you go out there, you're only going to be doing one tee. You're only going to be assigned to your single tee. So you only need to worry about, in this case, if I'm doing hole 1 and I go to or that's not a good example, hole 2. When I go to my landing zone, I'm going to 147 here for the bogey player, and then 97 for the scratch player. I'm only concerned about my tee, no other tee out there. Someone else on our team will be doing the white tee and they'll take care of the white tee. But when you're doing the blue tee, you only care about the blue tee golfer and how the numbers on the sheet come out. All right, so finding a table value. So here is an example of what one of the table values look like, or one of the tables look like. So this is a fairway where we have a couple things. So this one here is an example of a table where the men and the women are on the same table, but you can see that the men are listed on the left and the women are listed on the right. So when we go out, and I'll use props to make it fun, but when I got my rangefinder here and I go out to the fairway in my landing zone, if it's 150 yards, I'm going to go close to the 150 or maybe 10 yards farther away from the 150. We'll talk about that at another time, but let's just say I go right to the 150. I'm going to shoot from one end of the fairway to the other, and let's say that number after I shoot it is 27 yards. So then I'm going to go here and I see my value of 27 is in this column here. And then what I'll do is I will say, depending on whether I'm doing the men or the women, I will find out the length of the hole, and that will get me my number. So if my hole is 300 or 400 yards for men, 400 is in this third row here, 380 to 425. Let me get my pen here. In this one here. And so my 27 yard gets me a number of 4. But if it's 400 yards and it's a female, then I'm in this one here, and my 27 yards gets me a number of 5. All right, and then that's just the starting point, and then there's all these adjustments things, but we're not going to worry too much about the adjustments. Really, the most important thing as a new person that you can learn is to make sure that you get in the right column and that you get to the right spot. So we've had some questions come in here. Let me see here. Yeah, so good question about the raters on the same hole. So yeah, so typically everyone will be on the same hole at the same time. So you'll be able to compare notes, check in to make sure that we're all on the same page. We do tend to break up into groups that do 1 9 and the other 9. So you may have a group of 6 people that go do the front 9 and a group of 6 people that do the back 9, but they'll stay together on the same hole, depending on what 9 they're on. There was a question about measuring and volunteering for that. So yes, there is a separate, there is a measuring team that goes out. It's the same group of people that have the opportunity to volunteer for that. Although there's significantly less people involved in that process. So the opportunities to get involved with that are not as frequent as rating the golf course. And then is the number of raters equal to the number of tees? Do you ever have extra raters other than trainees? So yeah, so the number of raters is equal to the number of tees. Again, keep that in mind that we'll also potentially have, so if we have a white tee, we may be doing it for both men and women. So that would be two raters for that quote unquote tee. And then other than trainees, we typically do not have extra people because we want to be cognizant and conscious of the golf course and not having them, pay for an extra round of golf or give up an extra round of golf, and also cover an extra lunch when it's not necessary. So those are great questions. All right, so again, here this example we had 27-yard width of the fairway, and our hole was 400 yards. Okay. And that's the numbers we got. So let's clear this here. And then I want to go back to this, to this form here. And we want to do, let's do hole 2 as another example. So if we're doing the same thing, we're doing the fairway. Okay, so our fairway here, when we measure it, when we're filling out our form, when we get out there, we're gonna start with our bogey golfer because that's the landing zone we're gonna run into first. We're gonna write down right here where it says landing zone 1, we're gonna write down 27, if that's the length that we measured. And I apologize for my writing, I'll do the best I can. And then we go to our next landing zone, our scratch golfer, and it might be 27, or it could be, let's just call it a different number for practice. Let's call it 31. Okay, and then we're not going to worry. Let's say
we're talking width here, right?
Yep, this is width. Yep. So when I get to my landing zone for fairway, I'm shooting from one edge of the fairway to the other. Width. Yep. Good point.
And how do we determine what the landing zone is?
Yep, so that's going to be given to you here on this page. So you can see here, like I'm going to go to this 147, and without getting into too much weeds, your landing zone is going to be this number, and then 20 yards behind that point. So your landing zone in this case is going to be 167 yards to 147 yards away from the center of the green. And then typically when you're trying to find that spot, when you're out there, you'll use markers that are in the ground. Some of the raters will have a GPS. So I'll typically ask them, hey, what number are you at? I'm at 193, then I need to know, then I know I need to go a little bit farther forward to get to where I need to go. But most courses have 150, 200, 100. And so as long as you're in the ballpark, you're good. So after we get in our landing zone and we measure those distances, we write them down here. Since this is a par 4, we don't have a second landing zone. If it was a par 5, we may have a second landing zone. We would measure there as well. And then we're not going to worry about adjustments yet. So we're just going to use these numbers. So if we go back to our chart, let's see how I do this. We go back here. We have, again, the hole was 347 yards. We're doing men. So 347 yards is this second row here. And then our 27 number is going to be a 3. And then our 31 number is also a 3. So then we go back to our form 1 here. And we'd write down 3. That was a bad 3, Kyle. 3 and 3. And then we're done. And so that's just a very basic example of how that works. Now, the other thing too that, to keep in mind too is on this page and on all these things, there are these adjustments below. So the adjustments are typically either -1, +1, or +2 or -2 in some cases. But basically what they do is they lower that table number. So if we had an L minus on our sheet back here, we would write that in here. And then this number would turn into a 2, not a 3. And so you'll learn as you go on about what all these adjustments are. But basically what you need to know is when you do have the adjustment, a minus is going to lower the number that you get from the table, and a plus is going to increase the number that you get from the table. All right, any questions before we move on to the next example really quick?
Kyle, there were several questions around this whole landing zone.
Yep.
You might just cover the fact that since this is a men that we're rating, no matter what tee you're going from, the scratch man player on a tee shot goes 250 yards from the tee. In this case, since the hole is 347, that landing zone is at 97. So that's how those numbers are calculated.
Yeah, right. Yeah, John, that's a great point. Yeah, so just exactly what John said is that scratch golfer for the male hits it 250. So that's why the 347 minus 250 equals 97. And then the 347 minus the 200 for the bogey golfer gets to 147. That was yeah, we definitely should have said that before. So thanks for pointing that out, John. And then for the ladies, the scratch golfer hits at 210, and the bogey golfer hits at 150. So that if it was a ladies' tee, those numbers would be used to get to this point. But again, these are going to be pre-calculated for you. Yeah, that's a good question, Ron. So no, so in this case, I just did that as an example, but you would not cross out the number and write a 2. That's why you bring an eraser. So if I had an eraser, actually I do have an eraser on this little tool, but I would let me see. I'll just erase here, and I erased too much, but yeah. So you would erase that and then write the right number in there.
So for men, if it's assumed the scratch golfer is 250 and the bogey golfer is 200, what is the assumption for women? And do you do it in the same sort of range?
So yeah, so women is 210. I'll write it in the chat, but women is 210 for scratch, and then 150 for bogey.
Okay.
All right. Let's do.
That makes it easy.
Yep. Let's do the another quick example here. So here's another one where you have your table that has 2 different tables. So the one in blue is for men and the one in yellow is for ladies. So in this case, you need to be aware of what tee you're doing and make sure you go to the appropriate one. So let me see if I don't know if we have a crossing in this one. Oh, we do. Okay, so let's go to hole 7 here. We've got a crossing of 106. Okay, so our crossing is 106, and again, we're doing men. So in this case, this chart, because there's 2 of them, the blue is men and the yellow is the ladies. So we're doing blue for men. We've got 106. So we can start with our scratch player. 106 gets us in this column. First column, our value is a 1. And then for our bogey player, a 106, our value is a 4. So again, we have that pre-measured for us in this case with the crossing. So then our scratch, who's on the left, was a 1. And then our bogey golfer, who's on the right, is a 4. And again, that's based off this chart because it's men, we're doing the blue there. All right. I know we're getting towards the end of our time, so but we'll definitely stick around if anyone has questions later or after. But I just have a couple more things I want to do. So just a couple things, and this was asked to, or this was brought up earlier. Feel free to ask questions of other raters when you're out there. We will go out together as a team, and that's why we do it, is so that we can calibrate with each other. We typically gather at the putting green to calibrate with others and make sure we're all on the same page. We won't assign the final value until we've done reviewing all possible adjustments. So typically that's not done until you finish up the hole at the green. After you do this a handful of times, the best recommended procedure is to fill out the values before going on the next hole, so you don't forget anything. You can fill out your sheet to include all the adjustments and everything. We want you to do that in the case that, so that you can fill it out later if you can't get to it or you're a little bit behind. But I've always found it best, and Gene, who was doing this before me, has always said that it's best to get the numbers filled in before you go to the next hole, provided that you can do it at the pace, and you'll get better at it as you learn. And then the other thing too is just to keep in mind that we talked about, we're doing this for the bogey and scratch player as the USGA and RNA define, not related to your game. So just try to restrict your bias as best as possible, and keep in mind that the numbers that are in the book and the yards that they hit, those are fixed and they're not going to change. So whether your opinion, you think that scratch golfers hit at 250 or not for men, or 210 for women, doesn't really matter. It's just that's how the system is set, and it's set that way so it can be uniform and consistent across all courses across the world. All right, so there was talk about training. So yeah, so there are not there. All these trainings are done to help you. They're not required, but the weekly trainings are what we're doing. You'll also have that chance to get out when we get on the golf courses to do some on-the-job training as well. But if you attend the trainings and read your book and your course rating guide, you'll be on a good path to get out there and have some success. So the last thing that I want to go over really quickly is just the GAM volunteer page. So for those of you that, again, because you're a GAM member, you'll have access to this. But basically, when you log into the GAM, and if you need any of that information, we can provide that for you. But basically, when you log in on the GAM website, it's gam.org, on your member homepage here, you'll have a button that lists out volunteer at the bottom, and you can click this course rating volunteer to get to our page. And so on our page, we have a lot of resources in terms of that video we saw, some of the other items that we talked about, list to the trainings, previously trainings that have been done, and to the YouTube links, videos on how to register. This is also where the GAM course rating clothing is at. So I would ask that people looking to get that would hold off just a little bit. We're still finalizing the items for this year. But basically, once you order through that, it'll get shipped to you. So hold off just a little bit. We'll definitely communicate out when that's ready. But that's where you'll be able to access it. And if you have ordered already, no worries about that. All the stuff on there is good to use. Just that we will probably have a few more things added in the next couple weeks, or definitely by March 1st. So there's a ton of resources there. And then to be able to sign up for events really quickly, when you're here, you can go to this drop-down menu at the top, and then you click on register, event schedule register here. And then this is where you can go and sign up for events. And we don't have any of our course ratings listed just yet, because we don't start scheduling until the end of February, early March. And that's just because we want to make sure that we're not scheduling too early with the weather. We also are aware that the golf courses, we want to make sure they have every opportunity they can to sell any outings or anything like that they can do. And we'll work in their schedule after those have been taken care of. So we don't start populating this with the actual schedule until typically right around April 1st, and right around mid March or early March is when we'll start putting them in the system once they're scheduled. And then in terms of signing up, when you do sign up, you can go here again, it's event schedule register, and then you just click this plus button here to sign up. When you are new, we just ask that you put in that you're a trainee or rookie or whatever, so that our captains know that you're new. And then you just hit submit, and then you just add yourself to that. And then you'll get confirmation that you're listed. So if I go back here to my schedule, you'll get confirmation that you're in there here as well. And then we'll talk more about when we get closer, when the dates are actually up, in terms of how the priority and scheduling works, so we can answer any questions that people have about that later. But I did want to end as close as possible to on time. So again, really appreciate everyone taking the time to be here today, and we really look forward to interacting with you more this spring and through our training, and then also once we get out into the golf course. So Theodore and I will stick around and answer any questions. I know there was a few more questions that came in or chats. So once we give people a chance to leave if they need to go, we'll answer those questions and any other ones that people have. So really, really appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing you later this year.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
So Kyle, I assume you're still there.
Yep.
Your video is frozen at my end. These things that you're registering for, are these the Thursday training sessions?
Yeah, so everything that's currently listed on the schedule are these Thursday training sessions. So you don't necessarily need.
And
go ahead. Yep.
and if I can't make, like, for instance, I can't make the one tomorrow because I have another meeting. You mentioned that these are being able to be viewed later.
Yep. So we record all of them and we put them on YouTube. So on the homepage here, the volunteer homepage, if you click this link right here, 2021 course rating training, that will take you to the playlist of all the ones that we've done so far. And you'll be able to view those. I'm not sure why it took me off that page, but briefly it was there. We'll make sure that works. But,
Okay.
but yeah, there is. I'm not sure why it. Maybe because I'm logged in, but we'll get that link to work.
Okay, like the other gentleman asked, I too have a GIN number, but am I a GAM member? Can I just willy-nilly go into this GAM site and get into the volunteer area?
Yeah, so if you have a GIN number, there's a very high probability that you're a GAM member. So if you we'll look you up and make sure, but chances are you are. The only case where you potentially wouldn't be is if you got your gin number through a club in Florida or another state. But if you signed
Got
up,
it here.
yeah, if you got it here in Michigan, then it came through us, and so yeah, you'd be all set. And if you just want to, Theodore will follow up with you with your login info. So you have that. What's I see what was your first name again? Sorry.
Jeff.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, Theodore will follow up with you on that and make sure you have your login information.
Great.
I'll send you an email, Jeff.
Okay, and then I don't do Venmo or whatever, PayPal.
Yep.
So how do I get this course rating guide?
Yep.
The
So
telephone number was in Farmington Hills or something.
Yep. So we're based in Farmington Hills. So you can either send a check to that address, or you can give me a call and pay with credit card, whatever is convenient for you.
So that's your telephone number essentially. I'll do that.
That's my cell phone number. So yep.
Great. I will call you.
Sounds great, Jeff.
Thank you. Thanks so much for the session. I learned quite a bit.
Yeah, and I'm glad. Well, thanks for being here.
Hey, Kyle, I was able to find Jeffrey Rundles from Birchwood Farms.
Okay. Yep.
That's me.
Okay. You're in the system.
Yep.
And then
Oh, go ahead.
I guess I'll have to learn how to do this, but you mentioned that there are different zones of the state. You know, I'm not going to be running down to Jackson all the time because that's 4 hours from here.
Right. Yeah.
So what zone am I in? I'm in Harbor Springs.
Yep. Yeah. So we do a lot of courses up in that area. So I think I think this year we'll be doing Chestnut Valley and Walloon Lake, I believe, and then
Oh, great.
there's a few others up that general area as well.
Cool.
Yep.
I played Chestnut, but I haven't been on Walloon Lake. I'd like to play that one.
Yeah, we'll have to see on that one because that's I don't know how much you know about that, but it's that like the pro there won't even let me play without him, so it's fairly exclusive, I guess. But chances are you'll have an opportunity.
Cool. Well, I understand that there's ticks to everything, so whatever
Yep.
it is.
Right. All right. So Bob, there's a question about should we sign up for Thursday? We don't require that people sign up for the Thursday sessions. Honestly, the only reason that I put it up there is so that people can get familiar with the process and just get more comfortable doing it. So you don't need to sign up. The link that we send out is the same each week for those, so you don't need to. But if you want to get in the habit of signing up and see how that works, go for it. So the Thursday, Michael asked, the time is not on there. We'll add the times in there. But basically all the Thursday sessions are at 10 a.m., 10 to 11. And then when you email the courses, will you email when the courses or new courses are available? I noticed the spots can go pretty fast. So Ron, it's a good question. We do send out an email once we have a batch of courses that have been added. And in some cases, the spots can go quick, but we don't, it's not necessarily first come, first serve. Again, if it is a lot of times based on the region, so we'll give priority to people that are in that area. And then in some cases, we'll need to make sure we have a certain number of people that have done it before or experienced raters, so we can make sure we get the job done. And then we might have 2 or 3 spots available for trainees. So it kind of depends on case by case, but it's definitely not a first come, first serve. The only thing I'll say to that is that if the course rating is, tomorrow or 2 days from now and you sign up today, at that point it's probably a little late. But as long as you sign up in a reasonable time ahead of time, even if there's more people signed up, it doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't sign up.
And you're suggesting that the sign up will come in response to an email that GAM sends out?
Yep. So we send out emails, or I send out emails to all of our course raters, and we send those out periodically through the summer once we have, and also in the spring once we have some of the dates scheduled.
And so, for instance, if I got one of these emails on April 1st, it could be for one course or multiple courses?
Yeah. So like the very first one that we'll send out there'll probably be like 20 courses listed there, or 10 courses, and then maybe the next one it's 6 or something like that.
Okay.
So it just varies on how the scheduling process goes, and that depends too on the region as well. Because when we call in northern Michigan in early March, no one typically answers. So those are typically scheduled a little bit later.
So you mentioned that there's 915 courses in Michigan. Are we assuming that every year there's something around 90 that need to be rated?
So that's a good question. In a perfect world, the answer to that would be yes, but we have a decent amount of courses that do not have an official rating. We're hoping to get all of them, but we have about 600 courses that have done that historically, and so typically we average about 60 a year.
Okay. And the typical volunteer, since I've never done this, a friend of mine does this, but what would I do this summer? 5?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's a typical. I mean, it really we leave it open to how much you want to get involved, and some of it too depends on how many courses are in your area as well, right? Or area that you want to travel to. So it really, I mean, we have people that do 20 courses and we have people that do 3 or 4. We typically recommend that to really retain the info that you try to commit to doing at least 4 a summer.
All right.
Yep. And Ron, you asked a question about typical courses need to graduate from training. So it really just depends on the person. We'll have people that will be a little bit more along, or will take more time. So we might have someone that's a trainee the entire year. But then, like for example, last year we had someone that joined us late, and he did a lot of studying before and really picked it up. And after 1.5 days out there with us, he was able to do his own sheet. So on his 3rd time, he was out there doing his own sheet. That's probably more of a unique scenario, but it really just depends on how much time you're willing to put in before and how much you're willing to learn before you get out there.
Great. So Theodore, you're gonna email me? Is that what we're doing?
Yep, I'll email you right after this. I'll send you some
Okay.
information that we have in our system. I'll just have you confirm it, and then I'll make sure your account's good to go. But it looks like you're good,
Great.
like you're in our
Thank you much.
system, Jill. Yeah, of course.
Many thanks. And again, Kyle and everyone, thanks for the session. It was great.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
And we'll
Thanks.
see you next time.
All right.
Sounds good, Jeff.
Great, Jeff. Then there was another question that came in about teaming up with a specific captain. So that's definitely. I know Michael, you may have left, but that's definitely an option in terms of working with a specific captain. But we don't have a set team per se. So when there's a rate in a certain region, that crew is not necessarily going to automatically be assigned to that. It's going to be open, but again, preference will be to local raters. All right, if there's anyone has any other questions, feel free to let us know. We'll hang on here for another couple minutes. But if not, again, appreciate you taking your time today, and we'll look forward to meeting you down the road.
Hey Kyle,
Yeah.
it's Ron. How do they know where your home is? Do you have to tell them when you sign up, or?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, to put that in there, and especially, but you'll find out, especially after doing it a couple times, that the captains will remember you, especially if you're local, and so you won't need to do that, but all the time. But starting off, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to put that in there. And
The reason I ask, I'm lucky because I have a home up north too. So
yeah.
so I would actually make sure I put that in there if I'm signing up for anything in the Northwest Michigan.
Yeah, no, definitely. We have a lot of people that are like that have a cottage up, or a place up that area, or in Gaylord area, and yeah, that your people can have multiple home areas when it comes
Yeah.
to horse trading, for sure.